Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Mike and Jay. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey, look, if you're gonna do the intro, you gotta be excited. Like,
okay, I'm sorry.
You can't do a lame
it's
intro.
Like we're doing
Kyle.
like meditation or something.
Yeah. Can you try that again?
I'm gonna ask you all to breathe deeply.
No. We're not gonna start over, but you're gonna start over.
Yeah, you started over.
All right.
Come
I'm
on.
sorry.
I want to properly set the tone here. I want to properly set the tone.
Yeah, he needs numbers. Think about math. You love math. Math.
Ooh, I do love
counting numbers. Okay, now go.
All right.
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Mike and Jay.
Okay, it sounded like you were swallowing something.
Maybe got 5% more energy there. All right, well,
he was
guys,
out of breath.
Welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels.
I'm sorry. I just don't have it today.
Yeah. I think you and a lot of other people don't have it today. So I think we can give you a pass, I guess. We got some stuff to talk about though.
One demerit going on your permanent record.
Pay cut. Yes, we do have some stuff to talk about today, but first let's hit housekeeping.
Yeah. So the normal.
Did you just talk over the drop again?
Definitely talk through the drop. This is really off the rails.
I don't care.
I guess that's
I don't care about the drop. I don't care about the
theme of today's
intro.
podcast is we're off the rails.
We're good.
You go, Jay.
All right. So I forgot there was a drop, frankly. And so
how did you forget? You literally
because I never listened back. I don't put the drop in. You do, and I don't listen to the podcast afterwards. So how would I know?
He says he doesn't know, but he literally was like housekeeping. All right. Anyways,
so
housekeeping,
Patreon. For again. One of the cool things about the Patreon is you support all the stuff that we do content wise over here. So, this podcast, the blog. So we got a bunch of writers now, and they're writing great articles. If you haven't read them yet, they've been doing a great job. And so your Patreon helps because we pay them. And so, that Patreon money goes towards that. And what do you get in return? Well, we have an After Dark podcast. It's been Mike and I, because no one else has really joined during the regular podcast, but that's okay. Mike and I basically talk about our real feelings and then go through, lists and deep dive into stuff that we just don't have time, or, it's a more unorganized podcast so that we can do whatever we want on that one. I think we talked about food on the last podcast for like a good 20 minutes, and so stuff like that. That's good, and there's rewards and all kinds of stuff. So go check out Patreon. And then the second thing is Stormtide. It's here, folks. We got a couple weeks and we're going to be mailing out all the Stormtide. So if you have pre-ordered and you got in early, awesome. Yours is coming in a few weeks. If you order in the next couple days, there's a deadline coming up, but basically you're going to be going into next month. So you'll get box one next month. And then also on the Stormtide website on the blog, we put out our roadmap for Stormtide. So if you've been hesitant because you're like, who are these jokers and what are they doing and how long is this going to last? Well, we just put out our roadmap to let you know how long it's going to last, and an overview of what our plans are without spoiling anything. So really excited about that. So if you're looking for, stability and plans and a forward path, well, Stormtides has got it for you. So go check it out.
Nice lead in. With that being said, there's also in the Patreon section, we have a Q&A this week on
Live
Thursday.
Q&A.
Live Q&A. it's either 8 or 9 o'clock. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
8 p.m. Eastern
8 p.m.
Standard Time.
There you go. So there will be at least 3 of us there to answer live Q&A questions. So if you have Stormtide questions or whatever, it's open to Patreon members only. But again, you only have to like donate like $1 on the Patreon to be a part of that. So
and be a part of the podcast and all of that stuff.
Yep, not a huge ask. You get a lot of intel there too, and we're continuing to kind of want to build that out. So yeah, I'm also really excited about the roadmap. It's Stormtide's been my pet project for a while now. I'm excited. I'm super excited. So
yep, and it can only get better, folks.
Indeed. So shall we crank into what I'm sure many people are here today for, the Legion news section of today's podcast?
Do we have a drop for that?
We do.
Of course, Jay. We have a drop for that.
I'm just kidding, everybody. I get all the drops.
We generally haven't used it lately because there hasn't been, a good place to actually fit the drop. But if we want to today, we can definitely do that.
Anytime now.
Welcome to In the News.
All right, so unless you've been living under a rock, you know that it was a bit of a tumultuous weekend for Legion.
Say it ain't so, Kyle.
Yeah. So the lead developer on not only Legion, but all of the Star Wars properties for AMG, X-Wing, and Armada included, Luke Eddy, is no longer with AMG. So yeah, that was a little bit of a shocker last week, particularly because he, within the last year, just made the transition over from FFG to AMG when they transitioned the product lines. So he was kind of like the continuity, if you will. And so before I think I want to sort of separate this into 2 parts before we get to
let's do it.
What we think this means for the game of Legion. I just want to say, Luke, thank you. All your work on the game of Legion has been awesome. Luke's an awesome guy and an excellent dev. And I don't know what else to say except thank you. You helped make this great Legion community what it is. And I'm sure that you'll end up somewhere awesome. So yeah,
I'd like to echo that. I mean, we definitely have had the pleasure with getting to hang around him a lot and work with him a ton. So it's really been awesome, so I definitely wish him the best.
I think he's going to be fine.
I'm sure he will be fine. He's got a bright
future out of him. I'm not sad for him. I think that's this corporate America thing I got in me where it's just like when someone leaves, you're like, good, do better, like go get a better job, go do great things, And so like I'm excited. He's a cool dude. Like, he was at Northeast Open and a couple other events, but Northeast Open in particular, I got to spend a lot of time with him. And so, he's a great dude, really nice. And he did a good job and good for him. Move on, can go do something else, have some fun. It'll be great. Positive.
And Jay, I'm optimistic about Luke's future. It's just a little bit sad that he doesn't get to like stick around to see, the fruits of his labor, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yes, Luke is a talented guy. I'm sure that he will land on his feet somewhere, and love what he's doing. So, what do you guys think this means for Legion, since this is a Legion podcast?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's going to be changes. It's just when. Right. Like, I think we knew that, though, even with Luke staying right before we knew he was going, I think the understanding, at least from my point, was with the way they run Crisis Protocol and with how, things that they do with miniatures and things they've done in the past with miniatures. I just assumed that they were going to add on game modes, or that there was going to be a shift to like more of a skirmish format, or, I just thought, or maybe a hero format. I thought something along those lines was going to end up coming. And I think that's still very much the case. But I mean, with anything in corporate America, and listen, I know we're in board games, but it's still corporate America. The gears of change take a long time. to shift. So I don't foresee anything in the next 6 months to a year, but eventually we'll probably see some changes, like big change, big, like, I don't mean like small, like erratas and stuff like that. I mean like big stuff. We'll definitely see some big stuff in like a year.
It'll be huge.
Yeah. I don't know if the question, I guess the bigger question that I'm sure we're all asking ourselves is, do we think it would be so deadly that it would like change if we love the game or the way the game is played? I don't think they can do that based on the investment so far. That wouldn't be wise, I don't think, from a business standpoint.
Well, so I'm gonna play a devil's advocate is not the right word here, but I would argue that at least from the community perspective, everything that Asmodee has done over the last year has not been wise at all. So I think I don't want to be too harsh because clearly we don't know details, but I think from the perspective of going from FFG Legion, where the devs were very open, they interacted with us a ton, and by us I mean the global community, is not just us. To basically letting a large part of the dev team go, AMG basically kind of closing the doors on public relations, like outside of their Twitch channel. And now this, I think it speaks to a company that is definitely being run in a very different way, and in a way that is maybe, I definitely think the community was perceiving it not well presently. I definitely am not enjoying those changes. I don't think the sky is falling. I don't think, like Legion is a cash cow. They would be crazy to let it go by the wayside. What
were those numbers that we saw? Like, wasn't it like a year ago or something, that it was like the number 2 most popular miniature game based on volume or something like that, next to 40K? I was like, holy crap. Like, yeah.
It's in the top 5. I don't think it's 2, but it's up there. It's up there with like with 40K and with D&D miniatures. So,
right.
Yeah. My understanding.
Which is a good company.
Yeah, my understanding was that it was like tied for 3rd with a couple other things behind Sigmar and 40K. But like, that's not a bad place to be, right? Yeah. Like as far as like it, those are the Warhammer Empire has been grown gradually over 30 plus years at this point, probably longer at this juncture. Like, they have a what I would consider a cult is not the right word, but it's a cult like following, as far as like the people that are passionate about GW products are passionate about GW stuff, and that's great. That's fantastic. That's their thing. I think, my concern is like Legion has been kind of in its infancy up until the pandemic, and since the pandemic has happened and all this other stuff has happened, I feel like the training wheels haven't really come off yet. And like we really have not had, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So I don't think the game's going anywhere. I think they would be crazy. I think there's no way Crisis Protocol makes more money than Legion does. If there is an IP or game within AMG that they want to keep, it is Star Wars Legion. There's no way they're giving that up monetarily. there's no way Asmodee is giving that up.
No, and I don't get that. I don't get that feeling at all. I think it doesn't make any sense financially or otherwise, right? Like if you have something that's successful, that's bringing in money, then, I think you want to change maybe how it's played a little bit, to maybe make it more accessible to people. Because listen, this is a competitive podcast where we're talking competitively, but really a majority of the player base, it doesn't really have 3.5 hours, 3 hours, to play 3 games, for 9 hours in a day. Like that's not what majority of the people who play this game are doing. So, I think attracting more players and keeping those players is probably a priority, I would suspect.
Well, and in that vein, I've heard a lot of, there's been a lot of conversations this weekend, and I think a lot of people that are competitively minded jumped, like there's been this kind of narrative painted that, with Luke and Alex gone, there's not a ton of people who know the game very well, that are like designing it or whatever. And I think, to your point, that may not be necessary for the majority of people that play Legion and collect this game. Like, having the rules be super tight is not a priority, right? It's a priority to us and a lot of the people that listen to this podcast,
right?
But I think from a bottom line, bottom dollar perspective, I don't think it's as big a deal.
No, and I think if we broke it down and realistically thought about it from a business perspective, right? A lot of the people who are buying Legion, or they go into Target or a comic book store or something, and they see the box on the shelf that says Star Wars, and they look at it and they're like, holy crap, I could get generationally speaking, I guess I could get Luke and Vader, or I can get Grievous and Obi-Wan, like, and I can put them on the table and play them. Like, that's, I think they're trying to, from a business perspective, I would want to keep that person purchasing, and then try to encourage more people like that to purchase. I'll give you guys a great example, because I had a delivery here, and it was an old guy, like 60, had to been 60, right? And he saw all this stuff for the business. He's like, oh, what do you do here? And I go, oh, we do, we make mats and support stuff for this game called Star Wars Legion. He goes, oh, I love Star Wars. What is this? Like, he had no idea what it was. And I was showing him the miniatures and like the terrain and stuff. He's like, wait, I can play war, but with Star Wars on a table? And I was like, yeah, man. And he was like a 60-year-old man, was all jacked about this, who had no idea, no concept of board games or tabletop gaming, and I'm pretty sure that guy's going to buy it now, right? And I'm going to have to talk to my FedEx guy every time. But like, that's the type that you're trying to get, right? Is like, how do I keep that person hooked and keep them buying? But that's how I would see it. Sorry, that was a long way around of saying why I believe there's going to end up being 2 rule sets, frankly. I think they tried to do it with the skirmish set, you know what I mean? And I think what they're going to do, if I had to guess, I would say that if I was them, I would do a small format version of the game, not skirmish, but something different, and maybe like a hero focused version.
I think that that's very possible. I think that is completely detached and removed from what happened this weekend. I don't think those two things are really related. Now they may be related in like who ends up developing these other game modes or whatever, because like AMG has clearly developed several game modes for Crisis Protocol. But I don't think, like, if those things were going to happen, they were going to happen, I think, with Luke there or not.
Yeah, sure. But I would say that we're working on a bunch of assumptions, right? And we're just trying to like fire in the dark and see if anything lands. And we don't know why he's gone. We don't know what happened, really, right? That's nothing that we clearly know about. And so it could be anything. It doesn't even have, maybe it wasn't even related to the game. We have no idea. And so it's just one of those things that happens sometimes, and
I mean, this is a lot of speculation. Clearly.
Yeah, that's all I do is speculate.
Mike did allude to a point that I want to make, though, and that's just like clearly Legion as a franchise, I think, you've got miniatures, you got the Star Wars IP, like it's going to be successful. But just for me personally, like I played 40K for 20 years. I bought 40K models. I gave money to GW.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you say that like it's dirty. I mean, it sort of is, but anyways.
Well, I mean that a little bit in this context because, like, once Legion came out, I tried Legion, the game of Legion, and I've sort of openly admitted on this podcast that I do very much love Star Wars, but I also love the GW environment as like a war game sandbox. And the thing that drew me to Legion and keeps me playing Legion is the fact that it's a really good competitive game. And it's a way better one than 40K. I can say that very confidently, having played both.
Yeah.
And it's not close. So like, yes, 40K is a successful money-making game, but just like for me personally, like the world you're describing, where like, it is possibly a world where in 2 years, even though Legion exists and people buy the models, like it's not something that I personally want to play.
Well,
and again, that's clear speculation.
Well, hold on. So let me rephrase this, because along the GW line, right? Like I think it's more of, hey, we have Legion and we have this competitive game that maybe I don't foresee AMG doing OP structure or anything like that. Like I would guess they're going to let Frontline or somebody else handle that, right?
Which is fine,
right? But I think you have a competitive side. But then like GW puts out like Shadespire and like Kill Team and like all this other stuff, Blood Bowl, like that's more of in line with what I was thinking. Like you have all these like subversions of Legion that are more relatable to the everyman, and then but they can also be played if you want to bring them over to the competitive side, like Shadespire, and that you can use those miniatures in regular Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and they're compatible.
Ironically, those are both much more competitive games than 40K and AOS respectively.
Yeah, I know.
I think
but do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean.
The other point here that I think is important to make, when specifically, I guess talking about how competitive Legion is and stuff, like they would have to have a pretty good and compelling reason to come in and like break the rule set so that it was no longer functional in that capacity. I find it hard to believe that there is an incentive to do that.
No, I agree. I don't think that would necessarily happen either. I don't know. I guess there's just a lot of uncertainty, and like, they haven't come out and publicly said who, if anyone, is taking over, and they probably won't. No.
They might on their own Twitch channel while they're painting something.
Maybe. I guess my point is like there's a lot of uncertainty right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like, and because now you've got the entire original Legion dev team is no longer working on Legion. And I'm just wondering where they're going to get that like source of continuity from. And as someone who appreciates the game for like the finely balanced competitive experience that it is, maybe that worries me more than the average person. I don't know.
I would argue though. All right. You want to be real, Kyle? Fine. Let's be real. I would argue that as of late, that balance has been out of balance and has not been balanced at all on any level. I think the two new factions have kind of broke that and are and have changed the competitive landscape. And I think there needs to be a tweak anyways to rebalance it. Otherwise, you're going to get a 40K, Space Marines issue,
Totally, but who's making that tweak?
Yeah, but who made those decisions to begin with is what I'm saying.
Well,
and so someone could particularly, listen, I'm sorry, everybody. I love Luke and Alex, but let's be straight, right? Like, they made those decisions that put us here. And so I'm of the mind, glass half full, that like if we get another developer in here, maybe they'll have a see the problem differently and be able to solve some of the problems, that the game is eventually going to have as it grows.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of key, I think maybe. See, this is I don't want to dive down this rabbit hole, but since you brought it up, this is how the general American public sees politics, and it's actually like really wrong how they think and feel about it. And so a lot of people are like, oh, things are broken right now, so we should just throw new people in there and hope they do well, and all the people with experience should just get out, right? Because it's broken, we got to fix it, so let's just throw somebody new in there. And it doesn't work that way. Like the things that you learn from over the life, like there were reasons the decisions get made, and the new people that are gonna come in or deal with those, unless they've been significantly debriefed in a way that is, helpful, which generally doesn't happen. They're gonna have to generally repeat a lot of the same mistakes that the people you just kicked out had to already go through and learn. And I think when we're talking about scrapping an entire development team over the course of a year, which is basically what's happened, Star Wars Legion just changed governments effectively. And all the people that are going to have to develop it moving forward are not going to be able to lean on the base of knowledge specifically for Star Wars Legion that has been, developed and learned over the course of its lifetime. In fairness, the game has not been around that long.
Sure, and I hear what you're saying, and I guess my point of view here isn't quite what you outlined there. Like, if I was given the choice, I wouldn't say scrap everybody who knew about it and let's start fresh. But I'm saying that I think there's opportunity here, as someone who's just trying to look positively on this situation, that a new person maybe potentially could see it in a different light and maybe bring some really positive things to the table. And I get what you're saying, because let's take it out of politics, but just in business in general, like when you have, like a knowledge base of someone who has been at a business for a while and then they leave without a proper transition, you lose a lot of that accumulated knowledge, and you lose some traction and you get set back a little bit. And that's basically what we're going to experience here. But I have found, though, in those cases that though the first, the short term, you struggle a little bit, if you bring in someone capable and smart who's good at things and has done similar work but has done a great job at somewhere else, that there's an opportunity there to just enhance and make the game better.
Yeah, it could be great. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, yeah, I think
you're just saying nonsense. Your voice and the words did not match, Kyle, just in case you were wondering.
I'll fight for you today, Kyle. I think there is I don't want to point fingers or kind of toss it out there, but I think but I'm gonna say I do think a large portion of the uncertainty and concern centered around all of these changes is, frankly, Atomic Mass Games has not, and Asmodee, been forthcoming with a plan.
Like if they came out and said, like, here's your new Luke Eddy.
Yeah. let me ask
that's
you
going
guys
to
a
take
question.
over Legion, I think that would make a lot of people feel a lot better, but they haven't done that.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts here, and they're all contradicting, but let me put them out there. So like, I guess the example that a good example is an something that's parallel would be like Richard Garfield invented magic, right? And then they got rid of Richard Garfield, but magic is still alive and well. And one could argue good or bad, right? Like the way each wave of magic is different and each year of magic varies on how good and how bad the set is. But they survived. The game is still magic. It's still relatively the same game, give or take some new rules and new additions, but it's basically the same.
Wizards is also, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure it's a fair comparison, but the game plan for Wizards is mapped out to the public 2 years in advance. Like we know what's happening. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
They are very transparent about what happens there. If somebody gets fired or whatever, like they're very quick on the press release button. And I'm not saying like Asmodee or AMG are maybe to that level, but we've basically there were a lot of faces and people that we knew that worked for FFG who I imagine at this point have been replaced and or not replaced. I mean, frankly, we don't know. And my fear is that Asmodee is over here cutting dollars, because that seems to be what they do as a company at this point. And they're just not going to hire anybody and hope that the Marvel Crisis Protocol devs can step in. And I don't think, again, that's a lot of speculation, but I think if they think that they're going to get through this without hiring a new team, I think they're crazy.
Kyle, do you know with 40K the devs and like how much they cycle through devs and stuff? Yeah, like I was gonna say, like any of the Warhammer stuff, I played fantasy for a long time and I have no idea who was the dev or how long they deved or how many devs they have.
I've also openly said already on this podcast that 40K is a bad competitive game.
Well, but to your point, Jay, like as someone who I play their Lord of the Rings line, I mean, I know who the devs are on that game. I've talked to the devs. They go to the events. They have a very similar role in the community that the devs for Legion had when FFG was in charge. Like, so Adam Troke was there, like Luke Eddy, Alex Davey. I have no idea if he still is, but when I was involved with the game, they literally GW would fly him to Nova.
Yeah, and I think now for 40K, you got, what is it, Mike Brandt? Who's kind of like the practically official, like liaison between the competitive community and GW.
Yeah.
Like he works directly for GW now, right?
I don't know enough about 40K.
Think he does. Okay. 40 GW fans, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, like there is a face, who's basically in charge of like interacting with the 40K players, and in this case specifically the competitive 40K players.
Yeah, and I guess I was, but
that hasn't always been the case,
right? Yeah, and I guess what the question I ask is, like, there's these longevity games, which I think Legion has the potential of being, right? Is like a longevity game because of the IP and Star Wars is going to be around forever, and so, these other games have survived, and I'm sure. I mean, Magic got rid of Richard Garfield, like, and it survived, right? And so I'm just trying to put it in context that, like, hey, this isn't, sky doesn't have to fall necessarily. I'm not saying it will or won't, but.
And I don't think it's not like we reasonably expect the same person to be the dev for Legion for 15 years, the next 15 years, right? Like, change is a thing that happens. It's just like right now in this moment, we've lost our Legion dev. We've lost our Luke, shortly after we lost Alex. And there's no clear communication as to like who the new person is, if there is one. And I think like in this moment, it's hard to it's hard to formulate a vision for where we're going to stand in 2 years when we don't even have like a person to like interact with. You know what I mean?
I will be interested to see, what AMG's Twitch streams look like in the coming week or so, if they address this at all. So the other thing is that, like, since the move to AMG, like, Luke has kind of been closeted behind closed doors in comparison to what, they used to do.
Yeah, and so just to be clear for all our listeners, what Mike means by that is we, as not just us, but all the other podcasts and community members, had pretty good access to both Luke and Alex, and could get responses and could get them to come on whenever I mean, you guys know, if you've listened to Scoundrels or Fifth Trooper since the beginning, like, how many times have we had those guys on? Like a bunch of times. Like I had both of them on for just a dumb quiz show one time, right? Like, so our access to them was there, and since AMG's taken over, that access has yet to resume. I mean, it won't at all now because they're both gone, but
Well,
real quick, people have asked where our sign off "Stay Fresh Cheese Bags" comes from.
Yeah.
That's from FFG. That's from Alex Davey. So
yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, I just like, I think that has been part of the kind of, I think, passive signposts that we've seen with Asmodee and AMG kind of shutting down, their, I don't know, community outreach. And I, to some extent, I get that. I think, as a company, sometimes if you don't have people on, if you can't control what people say and stuff in public, sometimes it gets dicey, especially if they're like talking on your behalf and stuff like that. I get that. But
what are you talking about? Alex spoiling some of Clone Wars on our stream? Is that what you're talking about, Mike?
I mean, I have no idea
which time, Jay. Which time?
Yeah.
I have no idea what was kosher and what wasn't. But
Yeah,
I definitely
sure.
could see, as like, a high level executive at Asmodee or something, that's like, why is this guy, he might be a developer, but like, why is he spoiling stuff? Like, did we run this by Disney? Like, they're definitely dealing with an IP that could get yanked at any moment due to handling it improperly.
Right.
So, but I think to that point, we also haven't seen Luke on Twitch, right? Like, the devs used to have community outreach, and we don't really get community outreach about the game. We get community outreach about the hobby, and those are, I think, on the surface level the same, but when you kind of pare it down, they're two very different things. And
I think and maybe it's just a philosophy change, right? Like, maybe FFG's philosophy was that, I mean, it's, again, not to go back to work, but business is like, some businesses let the product managers who work and develop the product go out and talk to the public about the product, and some companies let the marketing team and the PR team go out and talk about the product, right? I mean, and maybe AMG's philosophy is, okay, we don't need them talking to people, we need them working on the game, and we'll talk to people, or someone else will talk to people.
Which I think it would be fine. It's just like, if your PR people are the ones that are doing the community outreach as opposed to the devs, I would expect the outreach to be better, because that's their job.
Yeah.
And it has definitely gotten worse.
For sure. And I think, I mean, listen, we don't know. We know, we've heard rumors about the change from FFG to AMG, and AMG was just as surprised as FFG. Like, I think Asmodee has been making these changes on high, and these child companies have just been dealing with it as they come. And so, I mean, that's a lot to absorb. And so I don't know that I necessarily blame AMG for being spun a little bit, for especially when it first happened, right? And taking a lot of time to, like, get their bearing and, you know, collect how they're going to move forward and how they're going to do the website and, you know, all this stuff. Like that's a lot to take on, and like a large wiki and FAQ, you know, pay, like there's a lot of spinning parts and plates that they got to spin, right? And so I think we always knew that that was going to take some time. And the question is, was this Luke thing part of that? Was it separate? Is it its own you know, we just don't know. And I don't know if it was an AMG decision or an Asmodee decision, or we don't know that either. And who was surprised and who wasn't surprised, and right. So like, I don't know. I have found that like in the board game industry, not all are run with complete business acumen, as you would suspect from a multi-million-dollar company, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's just primarily what bothers me, is like, we don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. You know, clearly MCP is a successful game. They have good devs. Kyle,
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
When you play D&D or like Pathfinder, are you lawful good? Is that like your alignment? Because I feel like I'm good with the chaos. I'm like definitely chaotic neutral, and so I'm just like listening to Kyle going, yeah, Kyle's lawful good.
I'm not sure that lawful good. I think Kyle is lawful neutral.
I have played, yes. Lawful neutral is closer.
He definitely has a code and he sticks to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm maybe a little bit more like, I haven't seen the show, so I can't comment on the show version of Stannis, but maybe the book version of Stannis from Game of Thrones.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think it's like sort of to a T lawful neutral, right? Like there are rules, right? Like you follow the rules.
Yeah.
If you know, somebody breaks the rules, it doesn't matter who they are, they, you know, like
yes, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, lawful neutral, I think is closer to it there, Mike.
Yeah, I think so too. Which I don't think is
because I was just like listening and like absorbing, you know, saying what I'm saying, listening to you say, I'm like I'm just fine with the chaos. I'm like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Boop, 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 whatever. Like,
I'm an accountant, Jay. I dislike chaos.
Yeah. I think the crux of it, and I, you know, if there are any, you know, AMG employees or whatever listening to this, you know, this is an open invitation. Like, if you guys want to come on here and have a conversation about what the plan looks like, we would love to have you, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
I would love to have you on. You know, I think, and it, frankly, it doesn't even need to be on here. Like, do it on your Twitch. Just tell the community what's up. What is the plan?
Yeah,
isn't
because that weird?
Yeah, I just every, you know, I don't, even with the miniatures games, like, again, going back to the Lord of the Rings thing, whenever Adam Troke would come to Nova, he would have he'd do like a little seminar thing, and he'd be like, here's what you can expect for the next year of Lord of the Rings or whatever. And like, that would go a long way. And it's really not that difficult. And frankly, they've almost had a year at this point to figure everything out and deal with it. And clearly this change, I mean, I don't know what this change has on their internal bearings, but like, just tell the people that put the time, the effort into like making your game and product, you know, one of their like pillars of their lives, like, you know, show them that they're meaningful to you outside of just lining your wallet with cash, please.
It is very old school. Like today's kind of business approach, right, is not on a smaller level, but it's like a lot more transparency and like, hey, here's how we're doing things and this is what's happening. And even if it's like not necessarily negative, but not positive. Just like, hey, we don't know. Like this is new. We're working on it. And you know, the company, whether it's Asmodee dictating it or AMG themselves, there's just a real lack of transparency on things, and like, hey, what's going on? This is why it's going on. That's what we're hoping to do. And that seems odd.
Yeah. I mean, I think frankly, if they just like got on their stream and were like, look, we didn't expect this to happen. We need a hot minute to like fix things. I think people would be okay with it. People wouldn't be thrilled about it, but I think it would do a lot to calm the suspicions and the fears of all of the people that have invested, frankly, a ton of money and a ton of time into this game. This is not a game that you play. This is not a cheap buy-in, $50 board game where like you've invested $50, and if you never play it again, it's no big deal. It's like, at a minimum, everybody has invested at least $300. Most people have invested much, much, much more money than that, and that's not even to talk about their time
or terrain.
Or, yeah, there's just so much that goes into it that I don't think you can treat it like a $50 board game that they don't need to know or whatever. Of course, that's my personal take. So who
knows? Well, yeah. And I guess so, it's funny. I was just thinking, Mike and I are kind of coming at this, not that we're at the same level, but coming at it from a dev design team as well, right? Because with Stormtide, and once you guys get that and start seeing what that's about, you'll see that all the time and effort we're putting into that we're really thinking about this from how we would approach it, right? And like as a for instance, we put out our roadmap for the rest of the year, and things are gonna, ideally everything will line up perfectly, but as things shift and as the world shifts, and we'll let you know. And it's just kind of one of those things that wasn't even a question in our minds as to like whether or not to do it. It was just like, yeah, we should totally be transparent. People are giving us their money, like that's crazy. Let's tell them what's going on, and it seems odd to me. I mean, it's odd for any business not to have like a roadmap or like hey, here's where we're going with this, that they tell people about, especially customers. It's not as detailed, but it's, you don't need to tell us exactly what's going on, but just like some sort of outline of like, hey, here's, the next couple phases of this game or whatever.
Yeah, and it reminds me a little bit of GW's old business model, like 10, 15 years ago, which was essentially just like shut up and buy our stuff. Mm-hmm. And they've sort of moved on from that to what is now a much more proactive communication. Yeah, it'd be nice to see some more of that. I do think, at least on the plus side, what's clear is that they are still releasing stuff. We actually got some previews this weekend and today, even for some of the new stuff. So why don't we pivot slightly to that? A little more positive.
No, I'm not done, Kyle.
I mean, do you guys have any final thoughts on this before we move on to that?
I mean, as much as, I don't know how much of that sounded doom and gloom. Like, again, I don't think this game is dying. We're still going to be here. We're still going to be producing Scoundrels and Fifth Trooper and all that jazz. So like,
and selling stuff.
Yeah. Sure. But
yeah, this is not housekeeping.
Yeah.
Housekeeping all podcast.
But the other thing that I can strongly say is like the pillars of community involvement are not changing.
Yes.
And frankly, that's a lot of what keeps this game's, competitive scene and stuff driving is people getting tournaments ready and stuff like that. Because Asmodee and AMG don't have anything to do with it anymore. So,
yeah. And here's something I'd like to say too. I was thinking about this. So let's start with, I'm not saying the game is dead and dying or anything like that. But if the game were to die tomorrow, there are plenty of examples of games that have lived on far past when their original company or developer. There's other Star Wars card games that are still produced and stuff, and people and still have a produced, not the right word, but still have a like a following and still do tournaments and still do all this stuff that's still all about the game, even though the development of the game hasn't been happening in 10 years. And so I just listen, it's always going to be here. I think it's got lasting power for sure, and one way or the other, whether AMG keeps doing it or if something happens in the future, I think there's going to be avenues and answers, and people are still going to be playing no matter what.
Yeah, and we do have a great community. This experience has reminded me of that. Lots of great content creators, lots of great people in the community, just generally that really care about this game and care about each other. So, none of this is going to affect that.
Yeah.
Which is a plus. So,
Yeah.
Thank you, Legion community, for being awesome.
Yeah, you guys did it.
All right, should we talk about new hotness?
Yeah, all right.
Sure.
So it's going to be a little bit we don't really have much to talk about because they didn't actually give us any cards.
Yeah.
Literally just images of miniatures, which is clearly better than nothing. But would it have been too much to ask to get some?
We're asking for a lot today, Kyle. Baby.
Any cards? I don't know. Yeah, no, I know. Yes, please sort out who's developing the game and tell us that first. But then after that, maybe if we could get some new unit cards, that'd be super.
These guards, these new robot guards have like a whip and a rocket launcher, and I still have to deal with the IRG the way that they are. This is such crap.
Did you just call the Magna Guard robot guards? Is that what just happened? I just want to. Okay.
Listen, I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. I'm an OG Star Wars guy. I don't care what these guys are called. I just care that one's got like an electro whip or some shit, and then the other one's got a rocket launcher. Like,
they look awesome.
Yeah, I want the IRG to have that. Why can't they have that? Like,
join the dark side, Jay.
Yeah, no,
well, the darker side.
Never ever, Kyle.
I think the Empire is the darkest side.
Empire for life.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I love these Magna Guard models. How they look, the posing, the detail, everything. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out what's going on with their hands.
They've got They've got like 8 fingers.
Yeah, it's almost like some kind of like clamp.
Yeah. Like, so I believe they've got like a kind of like. There's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a clamp. A clamp's probably good. I don't know. It's kind of like 2 forks at the end of each hand. So there are like 4 forks in total on each hand.
I see.
I think.
I think the way that somebody on the Discord described it, which seemed vaguely helpful, is that they have like 2 thumbs, and then they have like 4 fingers, but 2 of those fingers are, so it's kind of like this, right? Ish. I'm trying to make this with 2 hands, and it's not working very well.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah, right. Wow. Like Spock, but with an extra thumb. Right? That's kind of what it is, basically.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, which I guess is neat because they have 4 thumbs. They can say like 4 thumbs pointing at this guy.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, the models are sweet.
They are.
I will say that has been one of the very positive things that they have been getting better and better at models.
Oh yeah, these miniatures are amazing. Even the detail, like the tiny little holes in the cloaks, and so like it's fabulous.
What was that other thing that came out?
The spider thing, or the super
spider droid?
There's actually 2 other things.
Spider droid.
Yeah, so there's spider. Excuse me, spider droid.
Oh, easy, Kyle. No, there was 3 other things.
So let's have the spider droid next.
Yeah,
that was
go
the
ahead.
thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing looks crazy. It's the DSD. Is that the appropriate acronym? DSD-1, dwarf spider droid.
Yeah, all I can think of when I look at that is Deep Space Nine. Not the model, but the name.
Yeah. No, the model looks like it only has 4 legs. I guess you can call anything with multiple legs a spider droid.
Guess you can do whatever you want if you're George Lucas, I guess.
Well, clearly. Yeah. Whatever. It seems to have some kind of nose-mounted gun.
Yeah. The nose is the laser.
Yeah. And then a giant antenna.
Yeah.
Do you draw a line of sight from the top of that?
So a lot of people have been complaining about that. However, I would like to make the argument that of all the models that have weird places to draw a line of sight from in the middle of them, I'd argue this one is probably the most reasonable to do that because that's likely some type of radar.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like if it's got some kind of sensory mechanism, being at the top of an antenna is much more reasonable than like, where it is on the AA5, which is like the middle back part of the top of
just like the antenna, at least in the pictures, is like directly over the center. I think it's reasonable. Now, I think it would be a reasonable thing to say that you could draw a line of sight from there.
It's like the FD turret where you draw it from the tippy top of the turret, right?
Yeah.
How many people do you think are actually going to survive to tournaments with that thing still attached?
That's a good question.
That is very fair.
Those little Sith probe antennas. I've had 2 of those break off already.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of complaints.
Case.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of complaints about the AA5 antenna as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I was like looking at that going, yeah, that's not going to last long.
Well, I think you got to build your container. So like I have all of my cutout foam specifically crafted to the unit that goes in it. So I think like the dwarf spider droid or whatever it's called has to kind of go in sideways, and you have to cut out a portion for the antenna, so that you can transport it properly. But yeah, if you transport it like with the antenna sticking straight up in the air, like it's gonna break 100%.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you magnetize the antenna or something.
I will say the best thing about the prequel Clone Wars era is there's a lot of cool creature vehicles and product, right, that can be put into this game. That is one of the best parts about it.
And there's like 300 Jedi that we haven't gotten yet.
Yeah.
You want to talk about, speaking of creature products, flying things, you want to talk about the Fluttercraft real quick?
Dude, I'm so excited about that.
So I'm going to be honest. Excited. It looks like a nightmare to put together. I'm not sure I'm touching that kit. This thing looks like it's got 6,000 parts.
It looks awesome though.
Super flimsy, and like you're talking about breaking something. Like
it looks awesome though. Like
it does
visually.
It looks great. Yeah, I hope these aren't good. because then I'll have to get them and put them together.
Yeah, what are you gonna do if you have to buy a couple of these and put them together, Mike?
Well, I'm gonna lean on the bustedness of the clone trooper keyword for now, and hope the
bring them to me. I'll put them together and paint them for you.
I'm not. I mean, like, I think putting them together is not that big a deal, but I'm more worried about the Fluttercraft breaking than the Spider Droid.
Oh yeah, this thing is gonna. If you don't have a magnetized case, you're screwed. This thing is not staying together.
I just love that the Republic now has 2 flying vehicles.
2 flying vehicles.
The bark.
The lat.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like,
you guys, you don't even care about the lat so much.
The lat's not really a real vehicle. I mean, like, I kind of consider.
Isn't it technically 4? The saber, the bark, the lat.
I don't think. I'm not sure hover vehicles or whatever count.
You know what? Screw you, Kyle. Number one. Let's start there. Number two.
Okay.
The Fluttercraft kind of reminds me of like the dwarf, not the dwarf spider droid, but the dwarf like gyrocopters.
Yes.
Warhammer.
Yeah, from Fantasy.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's, I'm glad you said that, because I was about to just say too, like, this is the stuff I was like waiting for to happen. Like all these like cool like vehicle units like this that kind of start. That was some of the best parts about Warhammer Fantasy, where this, like the models and the options and stuff, and to like start putting out stuff like this is so great. I still argue that you could have an Ewok, like a goblin force faction of like Ewoks, and have them have like hand gliders and stuff. I think that would be cool. A little separate topic, but anyways. And then then what was the last one? The commander, right?
Yeah, the STD. The super tactical droid.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It looks
fun.
weird. It looks weird.
I mean, it looked weird in the show too. So
yeah, they're supposed to. That's how they're supposed to look.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a cool slew of new units. I think they said that they were coming out in early October, I want to say. I think October 1st or something was the date they gave.
Yeah, the tweet says these products release October 1st.
Yeah. So that's
shit's going to be later than that.
I mean, look, I almost said let's give them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not in a giving mood today. So, I mean, there are products, they're coming, which is great. Yeah.
I'm ordering all the Magna Guard.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit interested. Somebody on the Discord said that I think somebody like took a screenshot of like the box in German or something, and they said that there's two Magna Guard unit cards in the unit, or like it says on the box there's two unit cards. That seems weird to me.
That's supposedly what the German translation says. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't speak German.
I don't either. I mean, they did do that. They're doing that with the Wookiees, right? There's two unit cards in the Wookiee box. So maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
this sort of feels like the other half of that set of releases.
It does, yeah.
So I tell you, man, if they can get a core unit for the Republic that isn't clones, that's like Wookiees or something else, I would consider going Republic just for the like Wookiee stuff. I don't even care if it's good.
I think,
but I'm not doing it until clone. Like I can get a core without that aren't clones. That's the only time I can do it.
I think the most likely core unit for Republic that you'd see outside of clones would be probably Gungans.
That'd be awesome.
I'll take it.
Only if they release Wookiees at the same time.
I would rather the Gungans had
not
their
Wookiees,
Ewoks. Ewoks and Gungans.
Gungans had their own faction, and like you could take, like you could only take Qui-Gon in the Gungan faction, but you could they could release a second version of Kenobi that you could use in either. Republic or the Gungan faction. Like I think that there's a lot of
like an operative Kenobi.
Yeah, because that's basically. I mean, he wasn't like like operative Kenobi. He'd be young.
Nass.
Yeah, young Kenobi.
Man, so good.
And the thing about that is like Padme can fit into that faction, right, and still be an operative, right? I think that still fits very neatly. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of. I think. Circling back around to the conversation we were having earlier, like there is so much they can do with this game. I mean, they haven't even attempted to mine, dare I say, the sequel era. I'm not sure I want them to, but that's also not up to me. If I was Disney, I'd be like, hey, this cash cow we've been working on for like the last 10 years, can you like, I don't know, do something with it?
I actually like a lot of the characters from the sequel era. I would totally.
I do too. If the last movie wasn't complete and utter garbage,
yes,
I would feel a lot better about it.
I'm with you. Yeah.
No, I don't like them. I don't. I like The Force Awakens. That was good. I did not like the other ones. But I do like all the stuff that's happening on Disney Plus. So anything from that they want to do, I'm down.
Yo, so have you guys watched the latest episode of The Bad Batch?
I have.
Okay.
I haven't, and I don't care. So go ahead.
All right. So spoilers.
Spoilers for Bad Batch. Alert!
It's not
Alert!
like a super spoiler, but because like I'm not sure how important it is to the narrative, but they kind of like threw in the Republic commandos, like with the glowy visors and stuff into this episode, which I thought was really cool because those are technically only Legends content, I believe, right now. I don't think they're technically canon until
Now they are. Yeah.
Well, now they are.
But here's the caveat: they're technically Empire in that episode.
Yes, they are. They're fighting alongside literal stormtroopers.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So there's another option, right? Because with Bad Batch and Rebels, like, listen, I have a working knowledge of it at best, but there's like the LAT, right? Is a unit that's both Republic and Empire. It feels like there could be opportunity for more Empire Republic units that could be both, right?
Yeah, I think my problem thus far with those releases is, and maybe this will change with the new developers or whoever's developing, is that those releases have not been very well balanced for both sides of the coin.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like R2 was like a bit more busted in. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, R2 is a bad example, but like the Empire lat is clearly better than the Republic lat. What's the other one? That's another cross faction.
Less bad, you mean?
Sure.
Sorry, I had to dig.
We can go less bad.
Wookiees are the only other.
Wookiees are the next
Wookiees
one.
are the other cross faction, but I think Wookiees are going to be in a similar spot where, like, I mean, I would like to use Wookiees in my Republic army, but
yeah,
and maybe yeah, if they had the clone trooper keyword, I'd use them. But and maybe that'll get fixed, in the future. Yeah. But
I mean, I still think they really missed the boat with all the stuff from the Solo movie, and then like the fact that they only did a handful of stuff from Rogue.
Well, I think that there is clearly still a lot of room to grow and continue to develop the game. And like, I think one thing that I have high hopes for as far as AMG getting a hold of it is they're clearly pretty invested in developing characters, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really need new units. In fact, I would prefer not to. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, new units are great. But if you just like gave each faction a couple new characters like every quarter, I think that would be fine. I don't think you really like Empire doesn't need more core units. Rebels don't need more core units. Like every once in a while, if you want to toss them like special forces units or a vehicle or something, but like the characters, I feel like are really how like Rebels and Empire should be getting fleshed out at this point, right? Like finish, the Rogue One team for Rebels, finish, doing the Ezra, Kanan, Hera, what are they called?
Ghost Squadron. Yeah. Ghost Crew.
Yeah, like there's so much room for that stuff. There's all the Inquisitors for Empire. Yeah, that's what I would like to see moving forward. And I feel like, AMG, that's pretty much what they deal in. So that feels like an easy win on their side of thing. Is, you know, like, let's do something that we know we're good at. We're good at characters. So I hope that that's where they take it, at least initially.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we've come full circle. I think that's all the new stuff, right? Did we miss anything?
I believe that is all the new stuff. Yeah. I think the pictures are on the Facebook and Discord if you haven't seen them. I think they're also on the AMG Twitter, I think. Yeah, at least the Magna Guard and the Staff is. Oh no, the Fluttercraft and the DS Detroit are on here too.
Yep.
I guess the Fluttercraft isn't that bad. It's just it's the helicopter blades that make me nervous.
It's super pointy. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's gonna cut some people.
Well, and they're just gonna fall off a lot.
Yeah, that too.
It looks fabulous, though. Please keep making more models like that. I say that completely unironically. Some of my favorite GW models are like the spindly, like Ghost Night Haunt type. Not like the spindliest ones are some of the coolest looking ones. So,
give us some Wookiee core units so that we can have a Wookiee faction, please and thank you.
Along with Ewoks, please.
Yeah,
sure.
I would unironically play Ewoks.
God, I would too. Like, I want them to have hand gliders. I want them to have like special attacks against heavy weapons. Like, oh my God, it would be so good.
It'd be
like
so
just
cool.
like goblins. It'd just be like fantasy goblins, and maybe you have some that are like drunk on like mushroom sauce, like the berserkers that just go out and do crazy stuff. Oh my God, it would be so good.
I feel
just want to roll an attack that has pointy stick in the profile.
I feel like they're much closer to hobbits than goblins.
I meant in their play style, like for fantasy, goblins are all over the place. So, like, one of my favorite things about the old school orc and goblin army was that you would have to roll on a table for each unit, and then depending on what you rolled, depending on what they did, sometimes they would stay and fight, sometimes they'd run the other way, sometimes they would charge all of a sudden. And I feel like that would be great for like animosity. Ewoks. Yeah,
that's what that role was called.
Yeah, I loved it.
They'd get bored and start fighting with each other if you didn't like throw them at the enemy. Yeah.
We need a little chaos in this game. I would love that.
Somebody is clearly never played against the Wookiee skew.
Yeah.
Need a little chaos.
Not yet. Maybe in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, gentlemen, you got any final thoughts?
Everything's going to be fine.
Stand tall. It'll be all right.
Yeah. I feel like it was a little bit of more pessimism from me than you might normally see, for which I apologize. I still love Legion.
You didn't talk much. Okay.
Don't apologize. Own it. Own your feelings, man. It's fine. It's fine for you to have feelings and to express them.
This is hard.
Sure.
Yeah, but I still love Legion. I still love the community. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic as soon as we get some more direction from AMG. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
I think everybody just needs to hang in there. You know, I think it's unlikely we will get direction, and I think it is important to be upfront about that. I think.
Yeah, I know.
Despite everything we talked about today, I think it is seriously unlikely that we're going to get a plan, outreach or whatever. And I think we all need to be okay with that and understand that it's not likely, right? And that's okay.
I mean, I think it's possible too. We get it like indirectly, like they have to put somebody on the Legion streams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe we just, I don't know, whoever that somebody is just gets labeled, unfortunately or fortunately for them. But, I mean, whether there's any sort of like official, here's your new person or not, eventually people will draw their own conclusions. So
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the next Twitch chat.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I legitimately feel for whichever AMG employee has to go on their next Twitch chat.
Mod that. Fuck God.
I mean, I'm gonna take a little bit of a J stance here. That's their job.
No,
Yep.
I know it is. I just like
They got paid, right?
Yeah. You know, I mean, like, does it suck for them?
I still
Yeah,
feel for them.
totally.
Whoever that's gonna be, I feel for you.
It's gonna be a
But-
rough day, but at least they still have a job. I'm like, Luke.
There's crappy parts of everybody's got a crappy part of their job, you know.
That's true. That's very
And
accurate.
like sometimes you just got to do it, you know. You don't yeah. But hopefully it'll be informative, and hopefully they'll be communicative, and however that conversation goes.
Yeah, let's end on hope. Good job.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah. Hope.
I will say
Oh, here we go.
that this whole thing has felt very narratively similar to like between episodes 3 and episode 4. As far as this, like, you know, FFG's this bright beacon of the Republic that, you know, bringing us all this stuff, and you know,
were the chosen one.
you were the chosen ones, and you know, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what
Asmodee
happened.
is just on fire yelling, I hate you at us. And we're yelling, we loved you.
You know, and now we've transitioned to the Galactic Empire, and you know, maybe we need to blow up the Death Star. Who knows? You know, I don't know.
Let's do it.
But there is, I think, if Star Wars tells us anything or teaches us anything, is that it's, you know, if perseverance and hope win out eventually.
Would you say that like Stormtide then is like the Luke and Leia of the story that got born in the chaos?
I think
and
you're
it's gonna-
attempting to market right now.
Is going to survive to you know, balance the force.
We need like a marketing, like a
Like a little-
Jay Shalansky attempting to sell product.
You just like beep. The following is an endorsement from Jay Shalansky.
Yeah, there you go.
And in no way is the feelings and or views of Mike and Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what
I
happens.
think hope is a good place to be.
Yes, be hopeful, people.
You know, because they definitely, you know, the other thing, the last thing I want is to, like, ask for communication. They'll be like, okay, well, the game's over. You know, like, that's not the communication we want.
No, that would be the bad,
Right,
the bad
like,
kind of
You know,
communication.
but I think as far as communication goes, like that, like if they were to communicate, it'd be something stupid like that. So
I mean, if that's the case, it would be good to know. Right?
well, yeah, but the only reason they would communicate something like that is because they have to. You know?
Yes,
right?
I understand.
All
Like,
I'd say, if they're still announcing,
let me be
units,
clear. I
that's
don't
not
think that's
happening.
the case.
No, it's not gonna be the case.
Yeah.
There's no way.
From a
Yeah.
business perspective, if they're still announcing units, they still bought those. So
Oh, yes,
they've got
clearly.
Yeah.
they've got to provide those at some point.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
game is going to stick around. I think that much is.
Yeah.
Yeah, abundantly clear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's all kinds of dumb Star Wars stuff that's stuck around forever that nobody wanted, and it's still around. And this is something a lot of people want. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be fine.
Looking forward to the Trioculus release.
I think that ship has sailed.
All right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jay.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.